guy who cared about love, and I'm not the guy who cared about fortunes and such. Never cared much, but look at me now. Take a look at me now.
So welcome to the Chapter Secretary presentation for this year's Leadership Academy. My name is Rob France, and I'll be presenting today. So I couldn't find anyone else to do it, so you get me. No, actually, I've done the Chapter Secretary presentation before a few years back. I've done it for a couple of years here in Mid-Atlantic District. I've delivered this up in, I guess it's Northeastern District. So Chapter Secretary is a very important job, as you know, and it's something that every chapter has because they simply have to, right? Let me just talk about a couple of things you see here on the screen, and I'll just do this by way of, we're getting to introductions, so just bear with me for a second. I've taken the slide deck that we've used for the past several years, and I've updated it a little bit. I actually reached out to Society and to see if there's an updated deck, and there's not yet. Same thing with the Secretary Manual that's available, and we're going to go through some of that tonight as well. In this presentation, one of the things I've tried to do is to inculcate I've made sure all the links work. This will be up in the place of sharing, if you will, after we're done. There's links here to like the Healthy Chapter Initiative, which is actually a live link. This is the logo that you'll see on the Barbershop Harmony Society website. Same thing here with links at the bottom here. So generally speaking, on opening slides, I'll put the link to the most relevant topic. So welcome to being a chapter secretary. What does that mean? What does a secretary actually do? This is kind of the major slides that we have. So groupings of slides: the role of the secretary, membership reporting, chapter filings, chapter reporting, and then some other topics here that we need to keep in mind and be aware of. The youth policy, copyright law, contest registration, things like that. So before we get started, though, one of the things, and let me just back up a couple of slides. What a secretary, this is the answer to the question, if you remember up here on this opening slide. So what does a chapter secretary actually do? So this is what we do. Organizer and coordinator for the chapter and its members, keeps track of official chapter business, supports the members with intake and maintenance and anniversary of, membership things. A common report, membership reporting, which we'll talk about later, is who's up for for re-upping, who's coming due. And then communicating with the chapter, district, and society people for a variety of official purposes. So you do a lot. You organize everything internal to the chapter. You talk to people outside the chapter. You make sure basically that the chapter is humming along smoothly, right? And sometimes that doesn't always happen, and we know that. One of the most important things, though, is that you need to think like basically a knowledge bank, and I'm not a recording guy, right? So I have this equipment. These are toys that I play with. I run sound for my church. We covered my professional career. I'm an IT worker at a large pharmaceutical company. And in the past, I've held a role of like a solution architect, right? So what's a solution architect do? It's like, well, we know a lot of stuff about a lot of things, and we know how things are supposed to fit together and work. And what we don't know, we sort of make up, is kind of how it goes. With chapter secretary, one of the most important things that you need to do is to rely on, searching and resources that you can use. We're going to cover a bunch of topics here. You'll have a lot of resources here. This doesn't necessarily replace the course, although it almost could. But not everything that we talk about today is going to be actually current. I've brought this slide deck up as current as I can, but the society is a moving and changing entity, especially through these hard times. So they might come out in 6 months with another program that, we need to be aware of. Just sort of setting that out there. So your doc center and your members only website is where you're going to spend a lot of time when you're dealing with membership, member reporting, your board structure, things like that. And hopefully you've all logged in to Member Center. The Document Center, we're going to cover that too. I have another slide for Member Center here. The Document Center is this icon here. And I have actually these websites pulled up. If I go over to my web, let's see, it's over here. There you are. I know that you guys have probably signed in to the society. Document Center is here. Chapter leaders, log in here for information. Member Center, help. If I go to the home, this is where there's two different places. There's Doc Center and then there's home. When you go to the home page, that's where you have these icons. If you remember, I sort of had the Healthy Chapter Initiative logo there, but there's the Manage My Singing Communities, and that's where the membership information is. There's other links here, other interesting sessions. I don't know if you all saw the note that I'd sent out, sort of a reminder of, like, for instance, Member Center training that the society was doing that came out in a live wire. You should have probably received the initial, and then I just sort of sent a reminder. I think there's another one coming out this weekend, the 22nd, I want to say. Yeah, 22nd. So they're rerunning that session.
Yeah, Saturday at 1 p.m. Central.
Central, right? Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so where I was heading here, let's get back to presentation mode here, which is over here. Yep, that's where Member Center is. You know where that is. Yep, we just covered this. This is where you manage your singing communities. So this presentation is kind of aligned with the Chapter Secretary Manual, but as I was going through and getting the right links, which this is now a right link, and that's behind this link here, where the Business of Barbershop, is a is another resource that you have available. I went and I found actually that the Chapter Secretary Manual needs updated as well. All right, let me go to the next slide here. Very important to know where we're searching. So I'm going to go back over to my what looks like Google. Let's go back up here. I covered this a little earlier too. When you come to the home page, let's say you want to search for something, right? This search button is a member search. So this is to search for members, like people who are named in the society, like you want to find, Marty Monson or, Brian Schreiner or someone like that, right? So that's only a member search. That won't search documents. I don't think the search is down here even, because this isn't the Doc Center. This is the main page showing you, basically a dashboard. Articles they want you to see, which are important. When we go to Document Center, that's where we've got access to the resources. Resources, and all of these resources we're talking about, are organized as knowledge articles. Now, being an IT worker, I understand knowledge management. The idea is you write something in an article, and then people can search for that, and they can find the article. And usually in a knowledge sharing kind of scenario, even in corporate America, it's kind of everyone's role to update it. I don't think that's the case here. It's kind of like Wikipedia, how we use knowledge management. But this is the search, right? So if we do a search for secretary, like manual or tools, let's go with tools, and we click on search. This is where the search is down here. And so you can see that we got 26 results. These are articles, you can call them that. And if you scroll down the list, you can see like there's chapter treasurer, tools and documents. And then there should be somewhere chapter secretary, tools and documents. You click on that link, and then that's where you can see, like, for instance, the Chapter Secretary Manual is here. The presentation that we're using originated from here. And then there's other samples like the meeting agenda, meeting minutes, clearance forms, things of that nature. You can see. Got to search also, because one of the things we'll talk about is the 990, which you may know about, Secretary Tools. It's actually a treasurer tool. So when we go and we see that treasurer tools are here, and to your point, the secretary and treasurer kind of are hand in hand, and you got to sort of make sure, right, Steve? So here's where all of the information is. Here's where the 990 is down here. IRS questions and answers. Somewhere there's a sample reports. I guess that's where it is. And there's a place where you actually go and file it up in here somewhere too, right? So all right. I'm going to stop there for a minute. I'm going to come back to the presentation. This again is part of the resources section, which I think is critical. Again, you'll have this slide deck and you'll see where that is. Here's kind of like who to contact. And I'll say this as well, that what I find in the documentation and in presentations like this, what the society wants you to do is they want you to reach out to them if you have questions. So you should know a lot of things already as secretary, and maybe you have a secretary that was the former secretary in your chapter. There are other chapters. You can ask a local, chapter, your sister chapter or whatever, for help. You can ask the district secretary. We'll talk about that in a second. Or you can just reach out to the society.
Rob, can I interrupt with a question?
Please do. Go ahead, Rich.
I'm looking top left, BHS chapter leadership and education team. That's a new one on me. I've been taking questions I have about how my chapter's on the website, for example, and go into customer service at barbershop.org.
Right.
And I have to say, it was not at all helpful initially,
Right.
but more recently, there's somebody named Kelly who's been very responsive and very helpful. But I'm just wondering, when it comes to secretarial stuff, if I have questions, should I be going to chapters at Barbershop rather than customer service at Barbershop?
Yeah, I think that's what they would probably ask you to do as well. I'm going to go back up here for a minute to the doc center for a moment. And nope, I lie. See, I lie already. I'm already off track. I'm going to go here to this Healthy Chapter Initiative, and this will bring up the About page. So this is, chapters, this is when you contact chapters, this is who you're calling, the Healthy Chapter Initiative. And it's all aspects of the chapter and chapter business. And there's other things that they do, but they sort of organize this. And then if we look at the About, I have that link somewhere else. Hang on one second. Let me just go back over here to the About. I'm going to actually click on the About. See there? That's why I have that as a link. Skip verification. There you are. I could probably have searched for it. This is not the About page. Let me search for it. Give me a sec. Sorry. I should have had this up for you. Let's go back to the Doc Center. Let's go down here. Let's go About. I want to get to this page, though, because there was some other information here about Healthy. Healthy, if I could spell. Yeah, About the Healthy Chapter Initiative. There it is. Oh, okay, maybe that is. The article title isn't up there. But yes, that's what they want you to do, is to reach out if you have any questions to chapters.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, let's get back to the presentation. I'm going to sort of skip ahead here to where we were. There's the who you call. So you're a leader, right? So you're on the board, you're in your chapter, you've taken a step, a leap of faith, you are a leader. You're also a voting member of the board. Sometimes secretaries don't know that. You're going to lead. What this means is, as you work with, when you work with the board to make sure that everyone's on topic, or you're running meetings, or you're working to pull agendas together for board meetings, you're a team player, right? You come prepared to work, you choose to be present, you listen and understand. These are conditions of success. We look at these are from just best practices about being a good team player, right? Honor brainstorming, attack the problem, not the person. There are chapters where it's belligerent, on the board. There's, a bit of discussion that's more heated or more animated than maybe you would like. There are issues that are maybe facing some chapters where there's, little or no money, and, there's little or no members, and maybe you don't have a great idea about how to move forward, and that's contentious. That can happen. when we look to solve some of those problems, and your viewpoint and your voice is very important as well, because you know what must be done. Like the filings have to happen, whether you've got 60 members or you've got 6, right? So when we look at brainstorming is finding those ideas and thinking out of the box, and every idea is a good idea. Get it down on paper, and then you shuffle it around and you look through it. And have fun. And it's important to have fun as well. You'll be part of the team, encouraging and supporting one another. Express your concerns. Be open and honest. Courage and candor, right? Listen, solicit ideas. These are all just best practices for good leadership. And I think what I find when you work good with the executive team, the president, the secretary, and the treasurer, that's critical, so that you get stuff done. You keep each other accountable. It's like, hey, I think we need to have the slate of officers. Oh yes, you're absolutely right. Let's pull that together really quickly. Who was on that? Okay, let's see. Or filings that have to happen. Working with the treasurer, working with the secretary, getting the paperwork, getting the information in, making sure that the financial review is done on time and then is entered in. You're going to be the one that enters it in, probably into member center. So those kinds of partnerships. We also look for, and we're not going to talk about it much, but we also look for membership and marketing and music team to work together to find the music, select the music, practice and rehearse the music, and learn the music that we can market to customers through marketing, and we can market to potential members, and that satisfy the members' needs for singing. So those three sort of work together. And then we work kind of as a layer under that to support all of the other chapter initiatives. There's a slide here, a couple of slides here. They're good resources. If you're a reader, it's good. You should probably get a hold of this book, The 5 Non-Negotiables of Legacy Building. I don't know if we need to build a legacy or not. Maybe we should, maybe not. If you like leadership materials, you should consider getting this book and, reading through it and understanding, specify the win, be win-based, do this as a daily practice. This is how you develop your leadership skills. Keep it simple, focus on what you can control, and focus on your attitude. Sometimes, I don't want to go to work, right? Well, sorry, but, sometimes you have to, right? Be a 3-dimensional leader, be mentally tough. These are just some pickings of just soundbite pickings from the book. There's a lot more to it.
I have no idea what 3-dimensional leader means.
I know, exactly. You got to read the book. It's a trademark. It's something that's described in that book.
It's difficult when you're on like Teams and Zoom calls. That's all 2-dimensional.
Yeah, there you go. Power of speaking greatness into people. Value of people over productivity. Making sure that we value the people we have. Understanding, and this is, I worked with my son on this a little bit. He's involved. Sorry, I went back there. He's involved in leading a team of technical people at his church. He's very young, but I told him this, and this is what we have to remember too. I've always found this with volunteer leadership, which we are. We're all volunteers, except for the person that was appointed by everyone stepping back, right? You were told you'd be the secretary. So, but we each have a day job or lives, and we have a lot of history. We've had families, and everyone on the board has had families, and everyone on the board has a vested interest to make it better. We were all in it to try to make it as good as it can be, to try to do a job, do one for the chapter, to make sure that, we have a good singing community, right? So you don't know, when we come together on a Tuesday night, or we come together in a board meeting or something like that, you have no idea what happened that day with anyone, right? So maybe someone's a little sour, maybe someone, is a little disgruntled or lashes out. Sometimes can happen, it's like, what, sympathetically, what's happened today? Are you okay? What's happening? What's going on? Maybe it takes time to sort of stop and value the person and find out. Maybe the cat just died, or you heard from the child, and maybe the child has been diagnosed with some disease or something, and just had a really bad day or something. You never know. You never know where people are. So you always have to remember to elevate yourself and elevate your thinking to consider really where's the other person at, right? There's got to be a reason why they lashed out. So I found that to be helpful, in my career and also in the chapter. So another book, Jack Welch, CEO of General Electric, from his book Winning. These are some principles from that. And those are important. I don't mean to downplay that. Leaders establish, this is what leaders do. Leaders make sure people not only see the vision, but they live and breathe it. You might want to consider, what's your chapter's vision and mission statement? Do you know it? And do you know where it is? And does anyone that's in the membership know it, right? So might be, worth digging out, and seeing what it is that we're about. Leaders help make that happen. Leaders establish trust with candor, transparency, and credit, the courage to make unpopular decisions. Sometimes that happens. Leaders celebrate. I'm just picking a couple of these things off the slide. You can see the slide, and you'll have these materials as well. There are lots of other books. I mean, these are just a couple of books that were included in the materials. I've added this. This is an excerpt from my advocate training guide. Visions of Excellence is a great resource. Emotional intelligence and social intelligence. Kind of, think about how you feel emotionally and to sort of perceive what other people feel emotionally. This is what I was just talking about. You don't know what the guy's gone through this week. There are some others here. Fifth Discipline had a very interesting article in it that I read along the way. So I put these here as resources. You can explore those. You can Google them. You can, get them from Amazon or get them on a Kindle reader or something like that. I'm going to stop here for a second. We're going to transition to role of the chapter secretary. Are there any other questions about that? Any other dialogue about being a leader and playing on the team? Does anyone want to share any of your kind of experiences that you've had, or you've witnessed this in your chapter? You've experienced your board. How's have you taken a pulse check of your board? How is it operating? Anyone? Okay, not a problem. So the reason why we have a chapter secretary is to keep track of all of the business things, the legal things. We're going to get into that. You're required by the bylaws to have a secretary and a treasurer and a president, right? There's no option. You don't have to have a VP of program. You don't have to have a VP of music. The right size chapter. You only need to have those three. And the secretary and treasurer can be the same person. The treasurer and the president cannot be the same person, because you need to have that sort of separation for accountability reasons, right? If the president can spend all the money, that might not be so good, right? All right. You serve as a resource, a knowledge resource. What I mean by that is that, let's say, for instance, you have, and we'll talk about this later, but let's say you have a quartet that wants to get together and they want to understand how to buy music. Maybe you can help them out with that because you bought music for the chapter. You don't have to buy their music for them, but you can connect them to where it is and say, here's where you do it. Or other things like that as well. You perform the required functions for the chapters, for the members, and for the organization in general. Okay, cool. So these corporate responsibilities, each one of these, I'm going to go back again. So each one of these kinds of topics here is divided into each its own slide. Corporate responsibilities, you're a voting member. You maintain the corporate status with state or province that you're in. And there's some important stuff to know about that, depending on the state that you live in. You conduct, or you prepare the agendas for the board of directors and the minutes of all of the board meetings, as well as the chapter annual meeting. There's one annual meeting. It usually has to happen before October 15th, and that's usually where the elections have to happen. I say usually. Some chapters don't do it then, but you're sort of supposed to. All right, and then the corporate legal files. So you might have a file box of all the legal things, the charter, for instance, the membership applications, the minutes. There are, later on, we'll get to the slide, there are times, definite times or amounts of time that you need to keep each thing: 1 year, 3 year, 7 year, and forever. So membership responsibilities, if you have youth, you have to report and keep track of your youth, and you have to have the appropriate authorization forms for that youth member to participate. And that's for each event. The policy is clear on that. Membership forms and applications for new members, dual members, someone shows up, they want to transfer, someone needs to reinstate. Celebration of membership. We always let this happen. We had a fellow in our chapter, Dick Finder, who was fantastic, and he would always do this. He would always receive the cards in the mail, and would always go up and say something because he knew everyone. He knew a little bit about something about everyone, and he would present, we now have a card here, and this member is with us for 13 years. And this person came and sang with us, and the first concert was da 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 da, whatever, and can you guess who it is? Yep, it's none other than Rob France or whatever. So monthly reports, chapter roster, keeping track of the chapter roster, which Member Center, again, helps you keep track of. The business responsibilities, societies, and invoices. You will be the one probably to order things directly from the society, sheet music, other supplies. You'll make sure that the insurance is filed properly, and then the copyright compliance, the licensing is filed. This is just a really great overview. And then here we talked about communication. That was one of the last bullets on an earlier slide. Communicating with the other chapter officers, and you can see sort of this grid here. Obviously, we kind of get it. You communicate a lot, right? So you keep track of a lot of stuff. You make sure the chapter has all of its legal files in order. You make sure that you've got everything recorded properly, stored in the files and whatnot, and you communicate about it, right? And you lead with a smile. Okay. To finish out this section, we have a couple of points here.
Rob, if I can jump in with another question.
Yes, please.
I had been kind of beavering away trying to understand the society's website, and I am really just starting to understand the role and the gravitas of the district. So if we're feeding this information, is it enough to just feed it to the Harmony Society and that somehow it migrates to MAD? Or
great question. Let me switch gears here for a second. I'm going to go back over to, I guess it's right over here. Okay.
If you're going to cover it later, I'm happy to wait.
No, it's okay. Now is a perfect time. I was feeling like I wanted to do this anyway. If we go home here and we look at the Managed by Singing communities, here you'll see I'm in a few, right? I'm in the Bucks County as the chapter president and Mid-Atlantic District as the CSLT. So I'm going to go into Bucks County. Now, you also know, and you should be able to do this, you also know that you are a member of both the chapter and the chorus, and those are different relationships. So we're going to look at the related singing community is the Country Gentleman is the chorus. So right now we're looking at Bucks County. So this is my affiliation with Bucks County, and then the Country Gentleman would be the chorus, and this is represents the affiliation with the singing community. So when you go in here and you look at your membership, and here's your roster, for instance, which was just pulled, and I'm going somewhere with this, so stay with me here for a second, right? So this is automatically pulled. What you're looking at here is Salesforce. This is a salesforce.com application. And so it's got automation features and scripting, features and all that sort of thing. It's got a database behind it where all of this data is, right? So where my member profile and information is. And you see my, by the way, I don't know if you see here, my due date is coming up. I don't know if it shows here. It should. I need to renew. It's coming up very soon. All right. So when you look at this, you can download this Excel spreadsheet, right? And that has the most up-to-date information. And then here are the filings, where the filings are. And there's a place in here where you go and you make filings. So I'm not a secretary, so I don't know that I can, but I think I can. I'm not going to try it though, because I don't know what will happen. It might blow up on me. But I think if I click new, I could actually add and upload. Where I'm going with this, and I know this doesn't seem like this is a roundabout way to answer the question. So our Mid-Atlantic District, you have to, oh look, Leadership Academy. You have to log in. So this is important. So you have to make sure that you can log in here. Okay. Remember I said about searching is kind of important. So when we go and we look at like members, we can search for a member like Robert, if I spell it right, with a T, and France, there you go. You can find me. Great. Okay. When you go and you look at the chapter, for instance, the Bucks County chapter, right? You see there's a lot of people here. This is supposed to be imported on a regular basis by Mike, who's the IT, he's the chief officer for Mid-Atlantic District, chief information officer. This report is what he actually takes and loads in for the members and the member data and the positions, you know, when they start and when they end. So here's the point that we're getting to here is if I go and I look at, I'm going to view all here. And I go and I look at, so you can see here, this is the role, the officer role. You can see there's a start date and end date, and these are in the past. If this information is not up to date, then when the load happens, and that you notice these are like on the 15th of the month, 1st of the month and 15th of the month, then it has to wait until the next load. It's not automated, and we're not directly linked, is kind of the point. So make sure that your data is up to date, and then you wait for the next sync job to happen. And Mike does that periodically, sometime after the 1st and sometime after the 15th. That's how the data flows.
I noticed there's that people are listed more than once, and they're listed as former, and then they're current as, you know what I'm saying?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And you can filter this. I believe if you go down, let's see, you can, here's the little filter. So you can filter on, let's see, can you filter on start date or end date? So you could go like, you know, start date between January 1st, and then you can get an end date of, let's see if I go back like this, can I go to 2023? Look at that, I can. December 2000, let's see what happens if I apply this. Let's see, where's my apply button? That's the date I want. Yes, okay. All right. Oh, I see, I have to click on that. All right, my bad. Give me a sec. December 31st of 2022. There you go. Apply. So what that should do is that should filter out, you know, that should filter out everything that is just this year. Now, note though that the start date could have been like last year. So what we might want to do is when we do this filter, we might want to actually not have a start date here and only have an end date, right? So let's see, if I go like this, then we should see that there are people who are like, who've been chapter treasurer since 2010 and it's not expired. So he continues in that role. Okay, does that make sense? Here you can see though that, like, for instance, chapter social media and technology and web guy, right? So there's, you know, I started in that role, this is me, because we're looking at me, and that expires at the end of this year. So there are some positions that that start and expire. What do you do if someone has to vacate a role on the board, either a member at large or one of the others? So you have to put that end date in, and then you have to, of course, put the next start date for the person that's replacing in that role. And that could be someone that actually, you could have 2 or more hats. You know, it's not healthy to have too much, right? But sometimes Like last year, I think for our chapter, we had to have the VP of music also took on VP of membership. So, you know, he was doing both, which was a lot. But so you would have 2 records here. Right? Is this helpful for anyone?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Why I wanted to come here as well is because I wanted to go look at the information here, like the district directory. We cover this every year. If I could just get onto it. Here we go. Officers and staff. So 2 things. The first thing is, if you have questions about anything, you have issues, you know, concerns about your chapter as secretary, you can reach out to the district secretary, Dave Kelly. You can toss him an email and say, hey, listen, I need a little assistance with this. He might know the answer and tell you directly. He might tell you to contact society. I don't know. Dave Kelly's a very good, very resourceful kind of guy, very smart in this. He's only been the district secretary for a little while, but, you know, he can help you out. There are others on the board, on the you know, that could help you here. You could reach out and just ask a question. Hey, who would you say I should, you know, get in touch with? Everyone has made it their point to be available. And this also, there's a single pager that we have. This is the Who Do You Call list, which is updated periodically. To be fair, it hasn't been updated in a little bit. It does need to be updated. I think the call for updated info has gone out. This is a nice 1-pager to have to know who emails and phone numbers and whatnot, right? But you'll see here, for instance, like when we look at who's the division vice presidents, this is a little stale still because I'm not actually serving as the central division DVP. Katie has taken that over, Katie McDonald. So this will be updated. You know, we'll get it. So this is another one of those resources that you have at your disposal. Let's go look over here for a minute.
Rob,
So-
if I can I jump in again with a question?
Yeah, yep. Everything is done. Just let me just finish this one statement.
Sure.
So everything that we were talking about, when we go back over here, the business responsibilities, the insurance, the copyright compliance, and all that sort of thing. You know, everything that you're going to do, the 990s and things like that, you're going to do those in Member Center over here. All right. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, the last time I went on and looked at manage my SCs, I saw us listed twice, and I didn't excuse me, I understand why we're listed twice. There's the SC and then the chorus within the SC. But we were actually listed 3 times. I call this to the attention of Kelly at Barbershop, you know, customer support, and now it's gone away. But as I go into, when I click on one of my SCs, and then if I open up my view all member list, I understand why officers are listed twice. They appear once as an officer and once just as a member. But I've got guys 3, 4, 5 times. And I understand when it says former, because we have guys who are no longer officers or directors, and they show up in the former section of the list. But I've just got some guys who are listed more than twice, and I'm just wondering if that's a glitch.
Let me help you with that. There are a couple of answers here. First, I want to show this, right? So if you look, this is a quick filter, right? And so sometimes you can filter on things, you know,
I'm sorry, could you show me again how you open that?
Yeah, here's filter. So here's the filter here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And you can filter on these things that are presented here for you. Now I go and I look here and I'd like to just filter on status, right? So I don't see that I can, here you go, status current. There you go. There it is. Apply. All right. And so now I can look at all current stuff. And you notice there's like 50 plus items listed here. There's that duplicity. So here's what I'm going to say is the second part of this. Let's go back to manage my singing communities. Let's go back to Bucks County, for instance. And let's go back to these reports. I'm going to go ahead and open this report, download it. I'm going to have to open it with Excel. So we had something before Member Center. Does everybody remember that? We
No.
had other systems. And what happened was that the data got migrated from that old system to the new system. And anytime you do that sort of thing, again, I work in IT, I understand this a lot. You lose data, or stuff gets mapped or remapped, and we're still working to clean this up. So there's some things here that don't make sense. I actually reached out to chapters and to support to ask a question about just such a thing that looks like a duplication that needs to be fixed. It's like all of a sudden there was this duplicate record, which is exactly identical duplicate for a member. It's like there were two, like it created it and then it created it again simultaneously for some reason. I don't know why. So I did reach out to that. That kind of thing does happen. Why I opened this was because, and if you're not good with computers, or you're not comfortable with Excel, that's okay. Maybe there's someone in your chapter that can help you with this. But this is your chapter roster, and here I'm going to enable editing. You can, if you can't do any kind of filtration or combined filtration, this you can do offline. So we can do, sort and filter. This is not meant to be a class in Excel, but like here, for instance, I can look at active or expired. So I can come over here and I can just quickly just see who's expired. Michael D. Okay, got it. I hope he's not expired in real life. I hate that, right? So there's active, right? And this is active chapter roster, so you would think. So go to chapter membership all. I can go ahead and filter this. What I found in the cut to the chase is that sometimes you need to get this report and you need to work with this report to slice it and dice it and find your lists, and then you can ask an intelligent question back up to society. And this gives you the ability to do far more than you could do just with using this interactive report filter. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Let's see, I think I picked up...
If there's anybody else on here who has similar problem, I can tell you what I've been doing that's a few less steps,
Cool.
which is if you open up your entire membership roster and then just hit Control F, that opens up a search box, which just searches the web page. So you put in the name of the person, and that's how I'm finding out I've got people 3 or more times. But
Cool.
yeah, I see what you're saying, Rob. That what you described was the right way to do this.
You say Control F like Frank?
Yeah.
Yes.
Control F is a web page search. So what that is in your browser, it'll search the current page, the currently loaded page. And look, there's no right way or wrong way. This is also a good way to do it. And this is, to find, if you're just trying to find a person, that's great. This doesn't display all the columns though, so you won't be able to search other things like death dates and things like that. So
Absolutely.
So it just depends on what you're trying to do, but this is a good, quick way to do it if you just need to get to it, right?
Yeah,
That's
I'm
good.
just saying that if other chapter secretaries have one of the problems that I have, which
Yep.
is when they converted the data into Salesforce, you have some people listed 3 or 4 times.
Right.
That's a good way to identify who.
Yeah.
It's a little bit cumbersome, but and Rob, the way you described it is better. But this has worked for me. It's just easier. I'm not much of an Excel guy.
Yeah, it's cool. All right, good. Okay. Yes, was there another?
I was going to make one more complaint. If you have an old version of Microsoft Office, or if you're trying to use something like LibreOffice or FreeOffice, things don't come out right, and it's created inconveniences at best.
Yes.
So if they would be
Yeah, I've always found, I think I hear what you're saying. I've always found that I like to use CSV files, comma separated values, which typically work then with any tool you have.
and if we could get
Yeah.
if we could get the society to do that, please, it's much better.
Right.
Either that or the open sources. I'm anti-Microsoft. I'm working on a Linux computer. All of my software is open source. I don't like proprietary software as a principle. So I have had a great deal of difficulty.
let me just look at something real quick here. These all seem to be CSVs or XLSs. I mean, you know, it used to be the case that you could request an extract, and you could choose what you wanted, what format you wanted. Maybe they've taken that away. I don't know. I hear you. I do hear you, and we'll take that as a note. That would be a good suggestion, probably, that would help more people than just you. All right, back to the annual schedule. Back to our presentation. So on a monthly basis, there's this kind of like it's good to do membership reporting, because people, upcoming anniversaries, and upcoming renewals. We want to make sure that we get renewals done on time or before the due date. If it expires, you have a grace period like you did before. We talk about that, but it's far less than it used to be. And then instead of refreshing your renewing, you end up having to reinstate. So you have to be a little cautious, be a little aggressive about that. So that would be the kind of thing that the secretary would not necessarily announce, like like a town crier in the business portion of the meeting. It's like, the next these 8 people are expiring. But, send them a note. Say, by the way, you're expiring soon. Just you might want to take care of that. I think the society sends you reminders as well, but if we see the guys, if we see someone, it's incumbent to kind of let them know. All right. Okay. Dual memberships, society invoices, announces chapter board meetings on a monthly basis, and then as needed, distribute new member kits as needed, membership cards, that sort of thing. So there's monthly, and then there's sort of whenever you can, right? So at least 12 times this year, there's going to be these kinds of activities that you want to do: write, publish, and distribute meeting minutes. And then just as you need is really membership support. Yeah, this is where we talk about the voting member, recording secretary, work closely with the president, and treasurer, be the one that's in the know, accurately share information, and then share information to and from the district. You're a connecting rod to the society, so you'll get notices that no one else will. And I don't mean like just reminders of membership renewal, or that forms are due at a certain time. There's other information that you'll receive from time to time to share. Not everybody likes email. Not everybody reads the live wire, or even maybe their harmonizer, but there might be something of interest for your members that you want to highlight. So that's kind of why that's there. These slides come from, by the way, the secretary's toolbox, the toolkit. And so they're kind of redundant a little bit, some of these. When we look at meeting, responsibilities before the meeting, during the meeting, after the meeting, this just closes out this section of what we're responsible for. You're responsible to announce the meeting, design and publish the agenda, make documents available, prepare the membership status report before the board meeting. During the meeting, record the minutes, provide input, and then after the meeting, prepare and publish the minutes. These things all make sense, right? Share information with the bulletin newsletter editor if there is any, answer questions, and share appropriate information with the district and our society. So, those all things kind of make sense, right? We talked about this. You're a leader. You're the one that does the chapter organization. You keep everyone on track. You communicate with everyone about things that are relevant and important, topical, and timely. So this kind of like is in a nutshell.
Got one question about board meeting minutes. I'm assuming that not all information during a board meeting is privy or should be privy to all members of the chapter. But should something go out after a board meeting to the membership, just of like bullet points of maybe decisions that had been made, or how is that typically handled?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a finesse to this, right? and there's a finesse to, I'm going to go right into the next section here because it covers that. Robert's Rules of Order, Chapter and District Use Guide. This actually is a link to a page. And then if you wanted to know more about Robert's Rules of Order, there's a link to the wiki page. You can learn all about, why it was invented. Hang on to your question. We're getting there. I have like 2 more slides to get to, and then we'll talk about it. Why use it, right? So in my board meetings, I like to have a slight structure, but I don't need to follow rigorously Robert's Rules of Order. It's really meant to make sure that, protect the rights of everyone, democratic process of meetings, fair hearing of an issue, flexibility to address most meeting sessions, right? Everyone gets heard. It's important that everyone's heard, and it's important that as a board, when we meet, that we all collaborate, that we're all working together on the same team, and we see that about each other, right? And we consider each other's days and weeks and how we got here. So, but sometimes it can be contentious, right? Sometimes, the color of the paint that we use on the sign is critically important, and someone goes off and goes on their diatribe for 35 minutes. It's like, hold it, call for question, that sort of thing. So, but I have a point to make. We want to get out of here because it's getting late. So it's meant to sort of help those times be more fair and be more democratic, right? That's why we use it. It's used a lot in volunteer organizations, a lot of churches, a lot of school board meetings, a lot of that sort of thing. Use consensus. Use mode. Here's what you have to do, right? So this guide to utilizing Robert's Rules of Order for small boards, that's this link right here, right? A small board, like Alexandria Harmonizers, you probably maybe need to use the real Robert's Rules, right? But a chapter that's only got 6 members or 8 members or 12 members or 20 or 30, like our size, we're a mid-size in Bucks County, we probably don't need to follow it to the letter of the Robert's Rules, right? You don't have to. So the important points are use consensus rather than voting motions whenever possible. It just makes it simpler. Use motions in writing when dealing with the money matters. So sometimes we have to write that during the meeting when we're talking about money. Like we're going to, give a janitor, a $200 gift for the support they gave us for the show. It's one that we do, or whatever it is, right? And we authorize monies for the director's travels. That was a special travel to district, and we received the receipt, and we're going to authorize paying that as extra and above, right? That sort of thing. So stress, we want those in writing, and those you want to vote on, and those need to be recorded carefully in the minutes because it's money matters, right? You need to make sure that you have a quorum when you're voting, especially for money matters, because you're recording accurately, and you're doing that on behalf of the chapter membership. And then you are going to share that with the membership. The minutes of the meeting, all board meetings belong to the chapter. So everyone who's a member of the chapter can see it. Guests, you don't have to publish it to guests because they're not members yet. But everyone in the chapter does have a right to see that. And if there are questions about what's published in the minutes, those questions can be raised in a chapter setting and all that. Generally speaking, the board is elected to represent, the chapter business, to be representative. So in board meetings where we have a quorum, the secretary will present the minutes from, what's transpired in the last month, and then those will be received. Okay. The membership doesn't actually have to receive or authorize the minutes or whatnot. They could certainly annotate things that might be inaccuracies. And it's like, well, you mentioned, Tuesday the 18th, but the 18th is on Wednesday. What do you mean? Do you mean Tuesday or do you mean the 18th? What do you mean? Those kinds of things can always happen. We try not to, but it always can happen, right? So they have a certain, right to be able to, but they don't vote on the minutes per se. Always publish your agendas ahead of the meeting, right? That's, I think, common sense, especially for the annual report, right? And sometimes we have to convene special meetings, and we do that too. So it's like, hey, after the break, I need to see the board over here in this corner, stage right. and then we need to raise an issue that just came up that we need to fund or we need to pay attention to or we need to care for. Again, the secretary always has to call the meeting to order, note the time and the location where it was called to order, the fact that it was an emergency board meeting, who was actually present, whether or not it was a quorum, that sort of thing. You have to record that, what the motion was, what the vote was, and then the meeting has to be adjourned. And so that you have to have as kind of a special kind of little one-off little meeting. Sometimes that happens. Okay, here's how a quorum is measured. Minimum number of members required at a meeting. Chapter board meetings, it's more than 50% of voting members. Annual membership meetings, it's got to be 30% of the current chapter members present. So, right, do the math. If we have a chapter board of 9 members, we need 5 to be at the meeting at least, right? If you have 3 of you, then, right, what's that, 1.5 has to be there, right? So, all right. Here's the motions. Here's a little bit more about motions. There are different kinds of motions if you want. Terms you might hear: main motion, subsidiary motion, privileged motion, motions to reconsider, incidental motions, things like that. If you really get into the whole, structure of Robert's rules and you really want to run your chapter with like all of this structure and rigor, I mean, you're welcome to do so and you're welcome to apply this, but you might end up doing more work than you want. Craig, go ahead. I see you raised your hand.
Yeah. By the way, I'm still smiling, even though it's my mugshot.
Okay.
Have you ever had occasion where the board had to go into executive session and discuss something extremely confidential in nature, which board minutes of that topic were not promulgated?
Right. So the important point about minutes is that you have to have the right finesse, the right level of detail. So we haven't gotten to that slide yet, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Yes. I have 2 opinions about this too. Board minutes have to include the motions and the decisions. So basically the summary detail of everything that happened. It might be important to include or capture some of the conversation or some of the, who brought up the question or why it was a concern, that sort of thing. You might want to record all that, but you have to be careful about it, especially sensitive, right, topics. You don't want to record everything, right? And for that reason, I always want to be careful. For me, when I am trying to transcribe something and I'm trying to keep minutes, it's hard. I'm trying to pay attention. I'm trying to participate. I'm trying to write stuff down that's important and all that sort of thing. So oftentimes I like to record a meeting. However, when you record a meeting, that can stifle participation. So use that carefully. If you are all comfortable recording the session, go ahead and record it, with a cell phone or whatever you have, and then delete it or transcribe it and get rid of it or something like that. But by and large, generally speaking, if it's a sensitive topic, it's more important to talk about it and to feel comfortable talking about it and to not take anything out of context, because in those kinds of conversations, right, there's a lot of context that people understand or have to understand. And so you want to make sure you keep that out of the minutes. Remember, the minutes, we'll talk about this later, are stored forever. So you think about that when you're writing it down.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Looks like there's an empty slide here. It's probably just a carriage return slide break. It's not that there's any missing content. I did mention that that this came from here. Let's see. Do I have my? Yeah, here's my files. So let me get to this, for instance. When you look at, you'll get a link. Let's go back up here for a minute. Just follow this with me. When we go to this Leadership Academy, here's a link to our YouTube page. This is our YouTube page where these sessions are stored. And then there's also a link to the online material and handouts, which I'll click on, and that's here organized by all the different board positions. Here's ours for chapter secretary. And you'll notice when I go and look at this that under chapter secretary, there's 2017, 2020, last year's, and then this year's. What I've done is I've pulled together a lot of things. The society manual, the who do you call list is here. Chapter considerations guide is there. Board policy manual is here. These are just excerpts or pulled down from Doc Center. Generally speaking, the rule is that you go to Doc Center to get what you need. All right. And that's where you get the most recent thing. Like if you need to know about insurance, this is where the insurance page is, for instance, right? But I've put it here for us to have. And where I'm going here is this chapter secretary manual. I'm going to open that PDF. I'd recommend you have it. You notice that it was last updated September 2017. And you'll notice that it goes through, you know, what you do, what your role is, licensure, charter, suspension, membership reporting. This is old. That membership reporting is wrong. We're about to get into that. What your responsibilities are. Here's the Robert's Rules of Order section, quorum and motions and things. Publishing and distributing meeting minutes, chapter or page 21. Let's get to page 21 for a minute. I'm just checking myself against this to see how it plays. Chapter, distribute copies of the minutes to members. Keep the bulletin editor informed. Right? Does it say, doesn't say what level of detail. Solicit input and correction to the minutes prior to approval by the board of directors. It doesn't say what level of detail you want to have, right? Oh, here you go. Important details, actions for spending chapter money. All right, so let's see what this says. Record all important approved actions, consensus decisions, policies established or changed, blah, blah, blah. Unnecessary to report the marker in second of a motion. Interesting.
Rob, could you click plus a few times so I can see it a little better?
Yeah. Here, let me do that for you. Sorry. Is that better? So it's here you go. Based on current practice, it's unnecessary to report like motion and seconding or the resulting vote unless a roll call vote is called for minority voter requests that are to be so noted or something like that, right? So what's that mean is that if there's a special reason why you've got to record that stuff, don't. Names of board members need to be here, need to be recorded. Include the date, time, location of the next meeting, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't say, it says summary level, right? Important details in minutes. And then everything else is basically left out. You know, essentially don't write it down. Secretary to record action items and who it was assigned to. That's just project management, right? Strongly recommended actions requiring the spending of chapter money be approved. Okay, so we see this. So this lines up with these slides and what they say. Those slides came from this, right? All right, so here's your Robert's Rules of Order. It's quorums, here's motions, right? I would recommend that you get this book. This is 43, get this manual. When you read this, take it with a grain of salt, because when you talk about, and I'm gonna leave this parked here with the fraud for insurance. Let me just leave that parked there for a minute. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go back to here. Let's get back on track. I see that it's 8:15. We've gone without a break. We're about midway. I wonder if you want a break.
I'd be happy to just keep plowing along.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Do we have a second? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We will continue. All right. This is where things get a little tricky and things got a little difficult. Managed by singing communities, membership classifications. If I click on that link, that'll take us to the new membership classifications. All right, if you have any membership applications like printed paper copy, you need to be sure that you use up-to-date ones. You might want to consider getting rid of what you have, any old stock. These are the classifications. So there are a few that we don't have anymore. So we have regular member, we get what that is. Senior member, youth, life member, and Harmony Fellow. There are other things like, for instance, associate, that the Secretary Manual will tell you is for, like, if you have a female director. As you know, with everyone in Harmony, that doesn't matter anymore. So they're just regular members, they're not associates, right? Okay, so my point is that you want to make sure that you we understand that it's different and that we check. Here, let me just get bypass that. We're members through Member Center. We have singing communities. We've talked about that. We've used those terms. Yeah, here they are. So special membership classifications, and here's the effect. So here's what it is, and here's what the effect of it is. Here's how you are a senior member, and then here's what happens is you get a 25% discount on society dues. This information has been updated, and it aligns with, now, finally, with this. This basically just says this information. Member who is 75 years old, regardless of years of service, society dues are a 25% discount. So there you go. You see that, right? One of the other things I pulled down into our list of, I guess I should stay here, in our list of documents, I guess I'll get off of this. I'll get back to it later. Let me go back out of that. Here you go, 2022, Rob France. I do have a copy of the, did I get it? Did I pull it? Maybe it's on my other computer. I'm so sorry. The membership application. You should get a current copy of it. You should download it. You need to have it. You go to the society. Let's go search. Let's go to Document Center. Let's search. Okay, I need to get back up here. And I'll say membership form. By the way, your membership person also needs to have this handy. Let's see, why didn't that come in?
Maybe it's membership application.
Yeah, that could be. You could try that. Good help. Brainstorming there. You know what I think? Here's what I think. I think up here in home, I think there's a place where you want to join. You click on join. I think that's maybe off of the main Barbershop Harmony Society page. Let's go to BHS. I don't want to be in Member Center. That's where I think I saw it. There we go. Join us. Becoming a member. Become a member. Learn more. There you go.
And I guess for new people, there's always the audition and all that other stuff.
There's a process that you should follow. Every chapter has a similar but different process. And usually it involves, right? Of course, there's like 3, and I think some of this is actually society driven as well. There's like three meetings that you have to be in. You need to sing in front of the music team, or to certify or to validate that you're a singer that can be brought into the chorus and be brought into the chapter. Usually the director is involved in that, and the VP of music is involved in that, amongst others. And then the application is brought to the board, or the choice to adopt them or to accept them, and their membership application is voted on at the board. That's where sometimes we'll have an emergency meeting. Someone just passed their audition. Hey, chapter board, let's get together. They just passed their audition. Yay or nay? Yep, yay, good. Okay, there they are. Go ahead and transmit it, I guess, right? So that's a process. You know, maybe you don't follow that process, and that's okay. I believe I'm looking here to see what information is here. You might consider becoming a member if, and then here are the member classifications and things like that. There's this join online. So it used to be And in all of our jobs in IT that we're working in a lot of different places, banks work the same way too. There used to be that you used to have paper. How many people think about this, right? How many people still receive from their bank your canceled checks on a monthly basis and the statement that you can reconcile? And do you still get checks? I don't know of anybody who does that. Why? Because it's all online, right? So used to be that you had to have the membership application, you'd fill it out, press hard, it's in triplicate, send it in, right? No, we don't do that anymore. We use online. So this is join online, right? And this is perfectly acceptable, okay? Now, this doesn't mean necessarily that you are okay to be a member of the chapter or the chorus. This is to be a member of the society, and there are approvals that need to happen. There's I guess authorizations that happen, right? So anybody can become a member of the society, and then later on you determine what singing community you're in, right? So this is their intake. They want to just make it as easy as possible to let people come in. Remember, there's a Frank Thorne chapter, right? All right. So that's perfectly fine. Here, let's choose member. Here's what a member does. Choose if you're a member, become a member. And then you get right into here. So there you go. It's online, it's available.
Is there something in that online to select your chorus or your chapter?
No, see, that's the thing, is you're becoming a member of the
Got it.
Of the society, right? So that's what this all is, right? But going back to Doc Center, let's see. So let's go back over here. Let's go back into Doc Center. There is somewhere here, and I thought I had pulled this down. I guess I didn't, but I thought I had. You know what I might have done is I might have not pulled it down, thinking that, you know what, we want to make sure that you get the most up-to-date copies. So let's go application, membership. Let's go application. Let's see if that gets it. Membership, there you go. Membership form pack. That's exactly what I was thinking. Click here to download. All right, so we'll do that. February 2021. Here it is, perfect. I didn't download it. This is the 8-pager. Membership application, reporting and dues calculation, and youth membership form. So here's your application, personal information, home address, chapter name. Here's where you put in your chapter name, whether you're reinstatement, dual, or transfer. That's all in here as well. Dues payment. Here's what it is. For new and restating chapters, here's what you do. I know that's a bit small. Here, let me see if I can make that bigger. Can I make that bigger on this page? I can't. Oh, I'm gonna have to download it. Let me open it. It's a Word document. Yep, there we go. And I'm gonna enable editing, and I'm gonna zoom in. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. There you go. So, you know, typical things here, right? So, application processing fee, $10, society dues, district dues, you fill that all out. Here's payment information. We do not keep payment information. We want to obscure that. I don't even know why it has to be here on the form. I guess it has to be here so that they can, when this is mailed in, they can do it. All right, here's the official membership reporting and dues calculation. So this is the official grid. Comes right from this document. This is the source information. So any other document that you see, whether it's the chapter secretary guide or this presentation, or you know the secretary that used to be incumbent like 30 years ago, right? This is where you want to get the information.
Oh, Rob, explain to Rich what a Frank Thorne member means.
Okay. So Frank Thorne, and actually I have a slide on that too.
Oh, cool.
It's coming up in a little bit. Is a Frank Thorne is a person who's not a member of an actual chapter. So they're a society member, but they're not a member of a chapter. So there are several folks. I know of one fella, John Segunis, who sings in a barbershop quartet. He's in a registered quartet, competes at division and district levels. And he used to be in chapters, but he's just not interested in being in a chapter. So he's in the Frank Thorne chapter. As a matter of fact, I think if we go to the Mid-Atlantic District website and we go look at district directory chapters, I believe that we can actually see the Frank Thorne chapter in our district. So these are members, and here you can see, remember I said John Segunis. These are, it's kind of like a virtual chapter. See, it's J0, right? So they're just not in a chapter, and that's okay. They can do that. All right. Let's get back to this for a second. Regular member, member who's not youth or senior member is considered a regular member. Okay, got it. Or a lifetime member or whatever, right? So that's who they are. Here's this link to the BHS Frank Thorne statement of policy. Let me skip verification and go to that link. There it is. That's a link to this document up in Doc Center. Name, objects, membership. Here's how membership works. Here, let me plus that again. Whoa, that's way too big. Okay, there you go. Limited to persons of good character, abide by society's governing documents and code of ethics. So, you know, it's a typical stuff, right? Member must either apply for transfer to an active chapter or remain a member of the Frank Thorne chapter and pay society and district dues in accordance with paragraph 6 below, blah, blah, blah. So there it is. So, and you have a link to that. When you get the slide deck, you'll have that. Here, let's see, dual members, one or more chapter, two or more chapters, I guess. Dual membership is not a slam dunk. There are, you know, each chapter that contemplates dual membership has their own rules. I know in Queen Anne County chapter in Maryland, I believe it is, was organized, there was a requirement that their membership had to maintain original membership in their original chapter, and this would be a second chapter. I think Parkside started that way as well. That if you were currently a barbershopper, you had to stay in your original chapter, and you could join their chapter as a dual chapter, right? But that's, you know, at the discretion of the chapter. It didn't have to be that way. I think those chapters did it to goodwill to the chapters that were around them. It's like, look, we're not trying to steal your membership. You keep your membership, and then they're going to sing with us too. That's all it is. All right. Transfer, you can go from one to the other. We've had several transfers, and you saw that little checkbox. There's a checkbox for that. No chapter Frank Thorne lapsed, needs to be reinstated. And remember, associate membership does not exist. It used to, but it doesn't now. Okay? Okay, so what we learned from that is, and the most important points is that today the membership classifications are different. The source of that is on that membership application packet, which you can find from Doc Center, and I would recommend you do that, and you have that. Anything else, any other information might be out of date. Okay, cool. All right. Let's talk about bylaws. Yes, it's an uncomfortable topic. No, people don't really love, you know, they might need to have toothpicks in their eyes to go ahead and read it, right? So society bylaws, chapter bylaws. Now, I'm the sicko that actually goes and reads that kind of stuff, all right? Because it fascinates me. So obviously society bylaws governs how the society operates. Article 9 pertains to chapters, and it governs what you do, and you as a chapter can ratify your own code of regulations or statements of policy, which belong to you as a chapter. And those are the chapter, not the chorus. The chorus is the singing organization. The chapter is kind of like the shell nonprofit organization that those singing members are part of. So important point though is that your code of regulations and statements of policy must be ratified by the Governance and Bylaws Committee. Also, the society bylaws have Article 10, talks about districts, similar to chapters in regard to dues, code of regulations, and ratification requirement. The chapter bylaws template was updated in September of 2019. If you have not re-ratified your documents, you need to. That's a legal requirement. It has to be brought up to date. I think everyone should have seen that by now, but if you haven't, just know that you need to. You can get that on Document Center. If we go back up to the society, let's go back up to Doc Center, and we can go to, I think if we look at bylaws, I think that finds it. District, chapter, society. All right, so let's go look at chapter bylaws. This should bring us a page to access the chapter bylaws PDF. Here's a summary of changes that you can access. You can download it as a fillable Word document. And then here's, I guess, access the full playlist. I guess these are videos. There's YouTube videos that walk you through it if you want to, see what they have to say. All right.
Rob, this could get a little bit complicated because if your chorus is a corporation, the state law in which you're incorporated is going to require it to have bylaws.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So
no, you must have bylaws. And your bylaws, the organization that you are, is actually your society chapter. So your incorporation status, which we go over, let's see, chapter incorporation, there you go. Your chapter incorporations, you're required to update, member center, noting your status with the state or the province. And let's go over here. We'll walk over here. I just happen to have this at my fingertips and ready. When we go look at docs and information here, there is a, let's see, it is called the docs and information. It is nonprofit registration and compliance. There it is. So your corporate filing requirements vary. So you pick your state. They're all listed here, and here's the information of what you need to do in order to register as the proper organization, corporate entity, and also then to register to do charitable solicitations. I know this is a little small here. Let's see if I can do this. Yes, look at that. I can. There's Delaware, there's Maryland. Let's see, where's Virginia? Let's go down to Virginia.
What's the box that you clicked along the left margin in the blue?
Okay. Yep, that's over here. So, and you can see it now probably. It says docs and information.
Got it, thank you.
Yep, and then it's these nonprofit registration and compliance. Chris Beekler is the one that put this together. I think it says that down at the bottom here. And we're very happy. If you have any questions, he's a great resource, great guy to know. He'll tell you everything that you need to know, probably a few things you don't. But there's Virginia. So due date when it's due. Here's the office that you need to file it with. Here's the fee. And then if you're going to do register with consumer services, I guess you have to do that. You just have to follow their laws, rules governing solicitation of contributions. And every chapter is different. Look, they're different. Every state is different, and Commonwealth. You've got different limits, I think. And you have to do certain things depending on the limit of what's being donated and how that works. And you have to be a little careful too. And I would encourage you that if you have questions about this, you might need to seek legal counsel within your state or Commonwealth to make sure that things are stipulated and expressed properly. Okay. Just, following this web page is great. It's fantastic, but it's not the end all be all. Here's why I say that. We had a situation where someone tried to articulate that, they were going to leave some property or some money to the chapter, right? They had been a long-standing chapter member. When they die, here's my will, give the money to Bucks County chapter. Well, the problem is the way it was stated, we actually didn't receive that because they stated it's something to the Barbershop Society or to the society. So that money went to the society. It didn't come to us. There was nothing we could do about that. So, and it's okay. I mean, it's not like, I'm angling for that extra $20 or $3,000 or whatever it is. would have been nice, but this is the kind of thing that you have to be careful with. Make sure that you understand you've done the filings right, you're following your state guidance for doing, charitable contributions, which a will, would be, inheritance from a state would be. You need to be up on that. Okay. All right. Let's go back over here. I think I skipped through a few slides here, but
If
that's
I can
okay.
ask a follow-up question to something Richard asked maybe 5 minutes ago.
Oh, yeah.
Is it ever possible for a chapter to contain more than one corporation?
No. Singing
your choruses is not a separate chorus.
It's a chorus within it. So the shell organization is the chapter, and that's what you're incorporated as. And if you have a different chapter, that's a totally different chapter, and they're separate. Their legal documents are separate. Their financial reporting is separate. They're their own separate being.
So the existence of multiple singing communities does not mean you have to make more than one state filing. Certainly not.
That's correct. Now, it also, though, depends, and I don't know who's here from Hunterdon, but you might need to handle, like I heard about this just like earlier today, like in a couple of, in like a couple hours ago. They actually have, the executive board is the same for both choruses, which makes sense to me. So the president, secretary, treasurer are the same because it's one chapter. But each chorus has their own music director, musical, VP of music, VP of marketing. I think the marketing and membership was a shared service as well, but the music was separated, right? So because it makes sense because it's different styles of music, right? Going in here to where I keep my my docs here. Somewhere here I have info tech coordinator. I have my doc bin. This is too far deep for you guys, but there's these governing docs. I just wanted to bring this up. Here's our chapter bylaws. And you'll note on the chapter bylaws, of course, and you'll have this as well. Let's see, where's my button to expand? I want to embiggen this. There you go. There it is. Right? So you are a chapter of the Barbershop Harmony Society, period, right? And this goes into all of that, right? Name of the organization, here's what it is. Incorporation, it's incorporated in the state of Pennsylvania, right? And that's all got to be in there. And then it's got to be ratified, of course, by the secretary and the society board. Here's the last page. Okay, so I guess I don't have the signed copy here. All right, that's fine. The Code of Regulations is also very, very important. Standard operating procedures for Bucks County. So this is a second document in addition to the standard chapter bylaws. Here's where you lay out like a mission, what you do for mission, vision, and goals. Here's how chapter membership works for us. Here's again, in order to be eligible as singing chorus, member must perform in accordance with standards, blah, blah, blah. Chapter meetings, here's how we do chapter meetings. Chapter officers and job descriptions are taken from the latest copy of the Society Operations Manual. Okay, cool. Committees, this is where we state what we do, what we follow. Hey, has anyone got a job description for that? Well, okay, according to our SOP, standard operating procedures, we'll take that from the society and then we'll adapt it, right? So committees and committee oversight. So if you look at, for instance, the president. In our organization, the president is kind of the chair of the bulletin and newsletter and making sure that happens. Harmony Foundation Committee and the property committee, right? And taking inventory of what we have, risers and sound equipment and uniforms and things like that, right? All right, let's see. So VP Music Performance, right? So music team, audio learning committee, chorus manager reports into the VP. So this is who's responsible for what? Music librarian, novice quartet contest committee reports in, show committee reports into the VP of music, singing Valentine's committee, uniform committee, youth outreach, right? Those are the different things that are that's who reports into the VP of music, and that's what they're responsible for. So we try to articulate in the SOP who's responsible for what, so it eliminates question And we don't get this right all the time either. So sometimes we have to re-ratify this document. And down at the bottom, we should see that, yeah, there it is. So there's the president and the secretary, and then it's approved by the governance and bylaws committee. So this is, again, an outdated document. I just wanted to pull it up because I had it at my fingertips to show. Are there any questions about that? Do you sort of follow what we're driving at there?
In summary, I believe it used to be the case that the standard chapter bylaws cannot be modified by a chapter. Any special things they want for themselves, they have to put in their code of regulations.
Yes and no. The only thing you're allowed to do is to change it's the name that matters, and that's unique to each chapter, and then it's the number of your constituency of your board, and it's really the number of members at large. For a small course, you might not need to have you might have 2 or 3 members at large, or you might have others that are outside of the chapter be on the board. That can happen.
So the chapter is also in control of how many of its VP positions are actually board positions.
That's correct.
Is that governed by the standard bylaws or by the code of regs?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. What I was going to say is that a larger chapter like Alexandria might have 6 or 8 or members at large, if you need. Usually you want to have an odd number, so you've got a tie-breaking kind of a capability as well. So you might have 5 members at large and others. I don't know the answer to that question. Here, let me go look at the standard chapter bylaws. Let me just go look at that for a second. Here, how constituted, executive committee option. And then I think that they do allow you, that does, endure down to, here you go.
The word option, I think, answers the question.
Yeah. 5 officers and 4 other persons called a board at members at large deemed necessary to conduct the affairs. Offices of secretary and treasurer may be combined. So here's where it's combined as permitted by state law. Yeah, there you go. It's optional.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Chapter policies, and this I recommend as well. Develop official documentation for each of your things. And I want to talk about this for a moment as well. As I have the microphone for a sec, I'm going to go back to these governing docs. I'm going to come back out. If you look at guidelines and policy, I know this is small, and I'm going to sort this so you just sort of see it. But with our chapter several years ago, I went and helped document things like we have the vision statement is in its own separate document. It's our BCC governing document 4, right? Our mission statement is here. That one is particularly deprecated. We have what's called riser etiquette. We have contact sheet. We have trifold, membership trifold, and marketing trifold documents, which are documents that we control and manipulate. Here's the uniform policy. It's a music policy. And here's one that I want to talk about for a moment. You might want to ratify a pricing schedule for your performances. Now ignore whatever it says here. Here's why you want that, right? Here's what your annual show looks like. Here's what complimentary tickets are. When it was ratified, the board ratifies this beginning of the year. Every year is what would be good to do, and here's why. Later on, when you report at the end of the year, one of the reports that you have to file is you have to file your performances, the fees that were collected for those performances, and what was the amount of performances, the number of them that were given or donated, and what's the value, what's the representative value. So if you don't have a ratified schedule, how can you officially prepare that kind of a report? It's vitally important. So it's like, okay, we did an hour-long show, we donated it. Ordinarily, we charge X amount of dollars for it. So the value of that was a $400, investment or donation, and that's necessary for our state filing. Any questions on that?
Do all of those need to be approved by the society?
No, no,
thank you.
those are our own documents that we manage.
If I can just add 2 cents on a slightly different topic. Don't hesitate to recognize the full value of your performance and the fact that you donated it back. It makes your numbers look good on paper to granting authorities. Don't just say it's a wash, I'm not going to record any revenue or expense. I encourage you to record both.
Right. Right. And so, so when you say, and here's the other point, the adjunct to what you just said, Steve, is if you report your earnings, let's say you did 10 concerts and you earned like $3,000 for those concerts. So the matrix of it, whatever it was, that was the value. And then you say you donated $10,000 worth of performances, you know, and in another 10 performances. I was like, well, hang on. How did you calculate that? You know, so you're right. Don't hold back, but you have to publish, you have to have a fee schedule at least in place. Now you don't have to share that with anyone. You don't have to put that on your website, or, you know, you don't have to share it with people that you're engaging in contract for. Here's our fee schedule. You know, that's totally negotiable of what you actually charge, but at least you got it ratified and it's reasonable, right? All right. Anyway, uniform policy, we're going to give you these uniform pieces. We expect you to give those back if you no longer want to sing with us and you want to revoke your membership. Performance policy, we expect you to, you know, as a member in good standing, you know, participate in 75% of the performances or whatever, that sort of thing. Music, you know, we'll give you music and you have to give it back, you know, that sort of thing. So, you know, it's a, you know, we give this in a packet to the new members so they have kind of an idea, right? Not the performance fee schedule, but, you know, just develop these policies as a doc set and revise them on a periodic basis. Okay. All right, let's get to the filings then. So this is where we do treasurer and secretary things together. We already covered the Mid-Atlantic District Incorporation info page. There's also frequently asked questions for filings with the IRS. Here's that page about the 990. This was revised in 2018. It's probably due for another revision. Do I have to file it? Yes, you do. It has to be every year. Why did you put normally in quotes? I don't know. What does that mean? So normally receipts for the
Normally
year
means
are
a 3-year
normally less
average.
than 50,000. I guess for some chapters, you know, maybe some receipts for the year could be more than 50,000. So, right,
It
average.
literally means a 3-year moving average.
There you go. Right. Thank you. Right. Define grocery. So there's, you know, my point is that there's information that you need to read that's updated and up on the website. And it might be updated anytime soon. So your chapter incorporation we covered, you have to file that, you know, US or Canadian or whatever, and update membership center profile noting the status with the state or province, whether you've got 501c3 status or not. The IRS 990, ask your treasurer for a copy of it, upload it to member center. There was a thing too in this conversion where there were a lot of documents that were lost or missing. And so there was a lot of churn where the society asked the districts, hey, can you have your members just verify that the documents are filed and they're in compliance? And before we go suspending folks. And so we asked, and a lot of the people that I reached out to said, yeah, we've done it. We're up to date, but yet the society didn't know because they didn't have the filing or something like that. It was some notational issue or something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of churn. Maybe you guys went through some of that. Maybe you know what I'm talking about.
Some of the older files did not translate well. You
Right.
probably cannot access them and download them now. I don't know if there's a plan to require those to be re-uploaded, or
Right.
even if that's possible years in arrear.
Right.
COVID also made some changes that made things difficult. For example, in Virginia, they suspended all paper copies. Everything has to be done online.
There you go.
The only thing that I uploaded for compliance was the receipt for the corporate filing showing that it was paid and there's a receipt. In order to get a certificate, we've got to pay another, I think it's $25 to have a certificate produced and mailed to me.
Wow.
That then I would have to copy digitally and upload. So they haven't slapped me on the wrist or anything and said the receipt isn't good enough. But that's all there is for our chapter, at least for Virginia,
Okay.
for the corporate filing, is a receipt saying we got your 10, or I think it's 30, but I don't remember.
All right. Fantastic. And then the financial review. There are additional slides here. Again, these were here. We've covered this already. I remember hitting this before. This was not my presentation, but I've fixed it. I actually considered at length taking this slide out of here, but it had more information. And again, where this came, this reads almost verbatim to the Secretary's manual. Same thing here with the 990, but here's your timings. U.S. chapters, May 15th every year, no later than in member center profile. Canadian chapters, which I don't think we have any here, June 30th. All right. And then here, the chapter financial review. We don't call it an audit, it's a financial review. I've heard, Dave and Steve talk about that ad infinitum during our combined sessions and whatnot. We have to be careful not to call it an audit. It's just a review. You have someone who's not, I think preferably not on the board. Let's see. It's, by someone independent, it's in the chapter though. They overlook look over the files. You file that June 30th every year just to prove that everything's on the up and up.
Actually, board members are explicitly prohibited from doing the review, but in my opinion, if no one else will do it, at least have someone look at it.
Where is that explicitly listed? Where this just came up?
I'll have to look it up and get back to you.
This just came up in our.
I don't think it's been superseded, but it goes way back, so I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, there's another item that we're going to hit here. I'll show you that is, I thought, long-standing, but has been superseded as well. Let's see, forms for chapter financial review available in Doc Center and the chapter treasurer and tools documents, and then find chapter financial review form, printable PDF or fillable MS Excel here. Okay. Legal files. You're primarily responsible for keeping the legal file. That's these things. We've been talking about those a little bit, so this slide isn't as painful. The chapter license and charter, your incorporation records, of course, chapter bylaws, rules and regs, statements of policy, applications, board and chapter meeting minutes. We've covered all those. Insurance we didn't talk about yet. It's coming up. 990s, year-end treasury reports, annual financial review reports, see any contracts or show talent contracts or director contacts, show clearances, music mechanical synchronization licenses that you've purchased. So all of that, right? So I mean, that pretty well makes sense, right? Those are the sort of the chapter legal files. Here's what they are. And here's how long to keep them, right? In general, keep your corporate and financial records forever. Whoa, that's a long time. Discuss best way to store them, explore saving documents electronically. So our chapter has digitized, I think, everything or almost everything. Some things you need to keep definitely in paper, though, like your charter. I think that's, I don't know if it's a nice certificate or anything like that, but there are some things you want to keep. Let's see, insurance certificates, copies of society and district bylaws, copies of orders placed with Harmony Marketplace. You want to keep that on a year-on-year basis or rotating cycling basis. 3 years, copy of membership applications which were submitted. Approval for show licenses, chapter standing ovation program reviews. I don't know why that's there. I really don't know why that's there, but yeah, maybe. That's really a music team function. It's really a standing ovation program is really meant to help the music team evaluate how their performances are. All right, 7 years. IRS 990 is a 7-year thing. Annual financial reviews, contracts, youth form protection forms and participation forms, chapter property purchases, like for, recording equipment, video equipment, other technical equipment, risers, things like that, right? Vans, trailers, whatever you have. And then
I would add to that one bullet, if I'm not taking too much of your time here.
Go for it.
The assets that still exist, you don't want to, if it's more than 7 years old, that doesn't mean throw out the record that it exists, because you might need it for an insurance claim or something.
Okay, fair enough. Right. It's 7 years after the termination of it, right? So it's like the life of the system plus 7 years. It's the life of the asset plus 7 years. So if you no longer have the asset, then you start counting 7 years, and then you can terminate that, right? Recommended to shred and utterly destroy disposable items, including old sheet music. That's something that you want to make sure you keep track of, because you don't want anything accidentally, being intercepted. You have to fight espionage at every step of the way. Prepare for a natural disaster, right? So what's going to happen? Natural disaster is, flood, fire, burglary, things like that, right? Scanning and storing copies of them. Never go completely electronic, though, because that has its own set of risks, I guess. If you go electronic, make sure you got a backup of it somewhere, or maybe 2 backups. Make sure they're not stored in the same place. There are stories, of course, horror stories of the, 9/11 disaster, and the Twin Towers came down. And I know a guy who actually consulted with our company on this kind of stuff. He says, yeah, I had clients that just totally went out of business because everything they had, even their backups and their copies of backups, were all on site. They didn't move anything off site. Anyway, hopefully we don't have that problem. And then make sure you're organized enough and that you're capable. If you were visited by a federal government, state or otherwise, make sure that you're in order and that you can get to it, rather quickly. You don't want to have trouble producing the documents. Make sure you got your chapter minutes. Collaborate with your chapter administrative leadership to make sure you have a formal running list of service and community activities which your chapter has participated, because they want to see that too. So I don't know if our chapter has ever had that, ever. I don't know if any chapter has ever had to do that, but I think it's good to think about.
Did I see that was on your forever list?
Which?
Service and community service.
Right here. Yep, that's right.
Really?
Yeah, I know, right? Well, if you think about it, though, the reason why we have to keep track of that is because that's what you use to defend your claim that you're a 501c3 not-for-profit organization. Not-for-profits have to demonstrate that while there are earnings, there's also distribution of, valuable, product. So the idea is that it's kind of like, I guess they look for a net zero, sum, right? So they also, because you're a 501c3, you receive the benefit of tax, immunity, right? So
why forever?
Well, because you might have to, I don't know, they keep your records forever, right? The IRS, I don't know.
Practically, how far back are they going to come chasing you?
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I think this is not placed properly. I do think that's not placed properly. If we come back over here, though, let's see. Let's go back over here for a minute. That's over here. Ding, 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 ding. If we go back here to the secretary manual, that actually comes from a grid. Here, let's go ahead and make that bigger. There's actually a grid for how long you keep those things. It comes right from here. And maybe this needs to be updated as well. And I'll get to it here in a minute. Can't miss it. there it is right there. Ding, 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 ding. So as you can see, I mean, this is, verbatim right here. So I think they just plunked this. They just plunked it right into right there. Ding. So I don't know. You'll have to ask the society. And again, remember, this is revised of September of 2017. So maybe it's different now. I don't know, though. There might be a deeper reason why.
Electronic storage is cheap enough. Why bother?
Well, keep in mind, so keeping forever, I wouldn't keep the paper forever. I would keep the electronic forever.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
All right. Let's talk about these next set of slides where it says to me slide 51 of 85, but don't worry. I've got a bunch of stuff that's actually after the presentation that is counted in that 85. It's really only about 75. And each of these is going to be, a title slide and a title slide and just a single slide after that. So, all right. So chapter elections have to be held by October 15th. Coincides with the annual membership meeting. Candidates are announced 2 weeks prior. So you need to get that from your nominating committee. It says here that it has to be done through written notice, through email, letters to those without email, or a chapter bulletin. Because again, it's official in your state. These are kind of state mandates that it needs to be people. It's, I guess, done to defray the excuse that I didn't know. I didn't know who I was voting for. I didn't know the list of candidates. It's like, well, you're required as a board to make sure with all due diligence that people know. Here's who the people are, and here's the position that they're going to be elected into. All right, and then you have to report that no later than December 15th. In Member Center. Now, okay. So if you didn't do this yet, that's okay. Just go ahead and take care of it now. The most important one to do is to make sure that the chapter secretary has been updated, because if you don't update that due date and it expires, right, December 31st, 2021 goes by, guess what? You don't have access then anymore. The same access that you did. All right. And then when an officer resigns or is placed, you have to update it right away. All right. Chapter roster and personnel, keep that. Download it. Let's see, chapter roster, publish it quarterly. Member Center will allow administrative leadership team to download Excel format. Update your Member Center profile when chapter leaders are selected. That's critical for society and district communications, and also critical for when we get the information to load into our website. Very important, and I've just found this out recently. We've got a lot of members that are, not reported as deceased. So they look like they're still, inactive members or whatever. They've not been so noted. It's like any employee found dead, working at their job dead, will be fired on the spot, that sort of thing. We talked about this. You can download an Excel format roster. Here they all are. When I pulled this screenshot, you can see it was before the one was available today. Society youth policy, youth protection documents, youth protection training, youth policy. These are links to all of that. In general, all youth under the age of 18 must have permission to their parent or guardian, permission of their parent or guardian, so that they can participate in all chapter activities, and that an adult member must supervise. That's kind of like the policy statement, right? Got to complete and sign a youth policy membership form. Must complete and sign a youth policy participation form for each activity that they're participating in. Annual show, Christmas caroling, singing Valentines, I don't know if there's got to be one for each singing Valentine. You could probably omnibus that by saying that they're going to be involved in delivering singing Valentines on the 14th of February, and just anywhere they travel, you know, we want to be on the up and up. Let's see, each youth member or guest must be supervised by an adult member at all chapter, district, or society sponsored activities at all times. So, you know, Boy Scouts of America, Girl Scouts, you know, school districts, you know, you've got to go through training, and you've got to be certified that you're cleared to work with youth for their protection. I know, and I was a Cub Scout leader for my son's Boy Scout troop, Cub Scout troop, and the training, you know, they had 2 deep leadership or 2 on leadership. They always had to have that accountability when dealing with the children, you know, and whatnot, you know, for their protection, something that we have to do. You also, I didn't put it on here, and I think maybe next time I will, maybe it'll be updated. If you're going to be videotaping a show and you're going to be making that available, and there are youth that are in that particular show, you probably should get a release form. As a matter of fact, you might need you might want a release form for all of the participants, that they certify that their images, you know, photos, video can be used by the chapter for marketing purposes or whatever, right? So that goes specifically for this as well. You darn well better have one for your youth, right? All right. Okay, chapter insurance. This is where we get into some difference here. I'm going to click on this insurance forms for a minute. That'll be interesting. I found out some things by looking at this. General liability insurance. So you have it and you can't get out of it. You have to pay for it. Protects the chapter and society from third-party liability claims. Doesn't necessarily cover individual chapter members, but member accidental death and dismemberment is now included in the premium. There's an annual fee that you have to pay on time. It's an invoice to the individual chapters. I don't know what it is. It's a couple hundred, $400, $500, whatever it is, I think. You can't opt out of it. Certificates, you can get certificates if you need special certificates. The most up-to-date procedure is on the BHS website, and I think that's up here. Let's see if I can make that bigger for you. Oh, you could have probably searched for this for, you know, insurance if you need to file a claim. There's a couple of things here. Let's see, is it on the next? No, okay, so it's coming up. I'm not going to preempt myself, but here are your certificate of insurance is there. It's been recently updated, I guess March 5th last year. Allow 30 days for processing, may require additional copy of contracts or fees. And then let's see, you might have other premiums for youth workshop festivals, for a non-performer, if you got alcohol that's being served, or multiple additional insured. Let me talk about that alcohol being served. If you're having an event and like a afterglow after a show or whatever, at an establishment that serves alcohol, 2 things. You have to be careful with when youth are present, if youth are present, right? We don't want to demonstrate the wrong thing to the youth. We want to certainly not allow them to consume, but we're not talking about the additional premiums here for coverage for that, because I think you're at the organization. If you're renting out a fire hall and there's no alcohol there, they don't serve it as part of their, you know, state license, liquor license or whatever, then yeah, you need to consider this, right? All right. Here we go. Chapter bonding insurance. Each chapter is automatically covered by employee dishonesty policy. You can't opt out of it. Society's employee dishonesty limit is, this limit is different. It's $20,000 for society members, $10,000 for non-members for losses to a named insured. And then here's where I picked this up. This is kind of interesting, I thought, when we were looking at the secretary manual. I'm not going to go to it because we don't have time. It says, though, it's no longer required, but it is a best practice for chapter board to record a list of people who are authorized as financial handlers. That was new to me. I didn't know that. I thought you had to do this all the time. And here's the reason why you had to do it is because of the chapter bonding insurance. It has to be done at the beginning of each year. I remember we would religiously do that, you know, in January meeting, who's going to accept money on behalf of the chapter and hold it and then turn it in. We have to name them. Here's their names. And you didn't need to name people on the board, but you needed other people. That's not required anymore. Funny, right? All right. Property insurance. It's optional. It's not automatic. If you want property insurance, you have to seek it. Contact the society if you think you need it. It covers like, let's see, I don't know if it says. Does not cover automobiles or moving vehicles, including hired or non-owned one. Coverage does exist to the chapter entity, the event. Let's see. This was confusing when I read it too. Coverage does exist to cover the chapter or district entity in the event that the chapter or district is named in the claim. Okay.
Sounds like the protection against outside claims.
It does seem that way. I agree. This is recommended for chapters with risers, sound equipment, uniforms, you know, and probably trailers and things like that. All right. Insurance claims, again, contact the society. Customer service will help. Share this information. Don't make, here you go, important, right? Be your own lawyer. Don't make any statements that can or will be used against you, either written or otherwise. Talk only to customer service, because what they're going to do is they're going to try to contain the exposure, right? And then the society and its insurance agent will do the follow-up. I mean, that makes sense too, right? Just be careful what you say, right? All right. Show licensing and clearances. A little bit on this. So BMI and SESAC is done prior to the show. Download the form, submit it through the district secretary. Show clearances. This is taken from the is that taken from the music that you're doing? It's a BMI, or if it's an ASCAP license. No, I think it doesn't matter. I think you have to do this. You got to have a show. You've got to get the BMI clearance first. And then after you've done a show, based on gross ticket revenue, you submit your ASCAP licensing. Those forms are available on the Doc Center. And then for Canada, there's SOCAN, and that's done after the show. If you have any Canadian friends, you can fill them in. So here's the BMI, right? Complete it, forms and fees on the form. Send the completed form with 3 copies to the secretary. Not sure that's actually required. Chris Beekler could tell you about that. I think he's processing these for the Mid-Atlantic District now. And then you get a copy back. Signed form is stored in your legal files. Chapter is then free to finalize the venue and the contracts. So file and get the licenses and clearances early. Now, what do we mean by early? I don't know. It's not defined. I don't know if we're talking about early, like 2 weeks before the show. Doesn't seem like enough time, you know, but 2 years before the show seems a bit excessive. I think you have
to know the venue and you have to know the date.
Right. Correct. Here's ASCAP. Free will or benefit concerts, also free wills, but also be licensed. This but should be, say, may also be licensed. That's the wrong word. I didn't find that beforehand, sorry. It's the responsibility of the chapter to follow license procedures for the shows that they produce. So the shows that we produced. We have an interesting situation at the school where we do our shows that actually the school produces the show, produced by Lenape Middle School. I found that interesting. It's filed at the end of the year, even if there were no shows produced by the chapter. Any chapter produces at least one show will annually pay a minimum rate Other gross revenue sales, there's a formula. It's on the ASCAP form. It's probably, let's see, determined annually. And I think that maybe it hasn't changed in years, but there's always the possibility that the rate will change. Always that possibility, right? So always get the most recent form. Special rates for free will and benefit shows. Might be important to actually consider that when looking at pricing our fee schedule. Special additional fees for scripted shows or shows dedicated to a specific composer. Keep a copy in the chapter legal file. Here's SOCAN. Not going to spend a lot of time on this. We don't have any Canadian chapters. Show venue and talent. Here's some good advice. Get everything in writing. Never sign contracts until your show date is approved by the district secretary. Utilize talent contract to finalize and clarify the details. Stipulated deadline. Remind chapter treasurer for filing the 1099 form when you pay talent in excess of $600. I don't know if chapters are doing that or if they remember to do that. That's an interesting little nugget on this as well. In Canada, withhold payment of fee until the list of songs for SOCAN are provided. And of course, file contracts in the chapter legal file. All right, are we all comfortable? We have only a few more minutes left here. I have only a few more slides here, so that works out. All right, let's get uncomfortable. Copyright. Copyright 101, these are links, copyright fundamentals, and there's a YouTube copyright guidance for singing in a virtual world. It's all important. You know, with the advent of YouTube today, you know, this has gotten a lot more gray, but there's also a lot more noise going on. I listened to a guy, a YouTuber, his name is Rick Beato. There are others that grapple with this, where their videos are taken down because of some of the music that they've used in their videos. Rick Beato's gig is that he's explaining in his segments, he's got over 100 of them, 120 or 30, what makes this song good, and he uses a piece of the song. And most bands love this because it gets them some exposure, but there's a couple that were very upset because they weren't getting paid anything or whatever, and so they made him take his stuff down, right? Which you can do. There's a copyright infringement, right? So there's the, you know, fair use laws and all that sort of thing. But what you want to do is you want to be sure that you're considering, and for our performances, let's just take performances, you have to have legal music. So if you don't have legal music, don't tell me, I don't care, I don't want to know, but make sure that from now on you go and you buy music. If you have 40 singers, buy 40 copies, right? That's what you have to do. That sort of thing, right? When you perform the shows and the licenses that we just talked about, that covers that performance. That's cool. When you want to do recordings like a CD, or you want to record it on video, and then you have that synchronization license for video and audio, that's a thing. That's a real thing. And if you're caught, you know, there are some pretty steep fines. It says $50,000 per copy of printed or recorded material. And I don't know about your chapter, but I know my chapter, that would pretty much wipe you out, right? I don't know that I've heard of any chapters getting closed down. Maybe there are stories of this. I mean, come on, we're in it for goodwill, you know, we're just, you know, 501c3, 401c3, come on, we're using a song, right? Well, then there's the law. So you do have to be careful. How many people of us speed? Don't raise your hand. How many people drive on the highway maybe a little faster than they should from time to time, right? Oh, I've never done that, right? So did you get caught? No. Will you? Yeah. Will you pay a fine and get points on your license? Absolutely. So, you know, it's best not to do it. Know what you're talking about. So go on the website, read those materials, consider what those people are saying, and you'll understand. And the video, by the way, I'm just going to go back to this. This copyright guidance for singing in a virtual world you want to watch that video. Janice Bain is a name you should get to know if you have considerations for copyright. She kind of hosted this with a lot of the music publishers, the legal people from the big music publishers. Fascinating hour and a half or two session, and you get to understand the why of the law from their perspective. So I recommend watching that. All right, contest registration, competitor facts. Here's a link. Contest entry in the Barber score. Video tutorial. Here's how to do it. And then the C&J handbook is here, and that's just basically, you know, the music and judging categories and all that kind of stuff. This video tutorial, I think, was very important. You want to come up here and you want to sort of look at this. Here it is. You have to watch it on your own time. We're not going to watch it today, but it's made available to you. And then contest entry in Barber score, and that's what this contest and festival entry is in Barber score. It's I think Steve Armstrong from Northern Lights. It goes through and helps you out. So you have the ability to register for the contest through Barber score. The form is completed through visiting Barber score. Entry is automatically sent to the district VP. Again, some of this information might not be current. I'd ask Chris Beekler. And he's going to be available. I think he's going to be available on the combined sessions. So you don't want to miss the combined sessions. If there's questions about this, we can ask him then. Certification of songs and members. So the chapter secretary is responsible for certifying the songs and arrangements are legal, that you've purchased them legally. You report that on the form. And also responsible for certifying the individuals performing on the stage during a contest are members in good standing, including they're paid up. Members of the society, the district, and the chapter. So you might have penalties that might disqualify you, all that sort of stuff. So that's why your chapter roster, so member detail curation in Member Center is vital. Membership reporting on a monthly basis is important so that you don't get into a situation where membership has lapsed and then you have to reinstate. So you want to renew. And it's also important when you're going through the contest cycle, and that's all contests. So that's division, district, international, if you're competing at the international level, prelims. It's all got to be with legal music, and it's got to be fully by members. The reasons for this is because non-members are not certified or not authorized to perform that material legally by copyright law. All right, quartet registration. So there is a link here, register or reinstate a quartet. There's arrangement contestability. There's a link to that. You are not responsible to register the quartets. You can be a source of information for the quartets, but you don't have to actually do the registration. They need to do that. They need to pick a name, and they completely manage their membership cards on their own. Someone in the quartet sort of has to take the lead and sort of do that. But we can, remind them of the process, or we can help them through it, like if they have questions. As you know, as we've talked about, you're going to use the Member Center for all of your work. And there are tutorials that are available. I have not gone and found the links for all of these. We're going to have to search YouTube, I guess, and find it if we need it. How to add a member to your chapter. And you know what I think I'm going to do? Let me say thank you. No, how to add a member to your chapter. Let me go Google that for a minute and see what we get. Just go right out to Google here. How to add a member to your chapter. All right, well, that didn't work. Managing chapters, IMS, chapter website control. No, that didn't help at all. All right, so let's go back to docs.
Maybe BHS has to be in there.
Yeah, well, I was using their term specifically, though. let's go to, let's see, can I go to Doc Center? Where is, oh, am I not logged in? Oh, I know why. Because I'm zoomed in a little bit. It adjusted my size of that screen. Here's Doc Center. Let's go see about how to add a member. Let's search that and see what we get. Well, that has the word member in it. Maybe it's over here. How to add or update chapter leaders. How to, let's see, how to add.
If I can add a plug right now to the BHS presentation on the Member Center. I think earlier this afternoon, Rob, we said it was Saturday the 22nd. It's Saturday the 29th.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Highly recommended.
Okay. Oh, okay. Here you go. Okay, so here's what they have: is that how to update a chapter member's contact information. Maybe that's a little different than what the form says, but that's what those are over there on the side, and you can watch that here. Interesting. Cool. So so there's a lot of info there, and you can watch it right there. I'd recommend that. All right. And then you saw we got to our happy thank you. Thank you for your service as a chapter secretary. And thank you for being here today for this presentation.
What timing?
I know, look at that. We are 3 minutes ahead. Are there any questions at all?
How will we get copies of these slides?
Okay, yeah, so good. Well, okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing. Let's go like this. So here's what I recommend. You can see my screen now, right? Let's go back to the Mid-Atlantic District website. Let's go to the home page. And you see this Leadership Academy? There's two things here. Here's, first of all, the link to our Online Academy YouTube channel. Just click on that link and you get right to our YouTube channel, which looks like this. And you can click on this online materials or handouts link. And when you do that, you get right to, I'm already in a doc, but you get right to it. So that's where the materials are. Here. This is the Leadership Academy session materials. So online materials. The other thing too to note is that here's the grid for the sessions that we have. And here's our session right here, for instance. You notice that, and maybe here's how you got there, is that this is a link for a Zoom. Now notice that these, insuspiciously, have changed to YouTube. So when you click on these, it'll take you right to that session. And that's how we're going to manage that. All right. So when I have the processing of this recording done, that will be posted. So the other thing too is if you find yourself out there and you look here and you're playing this kind of stuff, if you look at this channel about page, it actually has the presentation and handout materials. It has the link here. You can grab it like that. And we could just paste that right into a web browser window. And you get right there. Okay. That was an excellent question. Thank you. I got a lot of tabs open. I'm going to have to close some of this stuff. Are there any other questions that we have for the good of the order? Is there anything here, and Dave and Steve, you guys have been, staff with me in other capacities. I'm going to ask you, is there anything that we've missed or that has been not sufficiently covered?
No, I'm good.
All right.
I got some things to research, not topics for right now.
This was amazingly thorough.
Thank you kindly. I cannot take credit for that.
Yes, you can.
Well, I didn't write it because that was actually originated with the society, but I did tweak it an awful lot. So it's all right. I'll take half of that.
Take credit.
Okay. Thank you.
You presented it very well.
Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. So if there's nothing else, I see we're right here at time. So thank you very much for your attention and participation. I learned from you as well. I thought that was great.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
We've taken a
Take care.
great journey.
Thank
Right.
you.
All right.
Well, it was one of those things, but look at me now, I'm in love.